Hello everyone, this is Deman from Talk Salesforce. I've decided to make a video series on how to use Ant as a deployment tool for Salesforce deployments. And in this video, we will be talking about how to install Ant, as it is not as simple as some other traditional tools where you simply download an install package and double click. So again, there will be a few more videos related to Ant deployments, but today we really want to focus on how to install it. Eventually, my goal is to not only show how to use Ant in real life with Salesforce, but also how to tie it to tools such as Jenkins or Circle CI, where we can take advantage of Ant and use continuous integration for our deployments. So let us actually dive into it. I'll be using this presentation as kind of a guide for this video, and no worries, I'll be sharing this presentation with you so you can look into it again. I'll also share all those links in the YouTube description. So before we do anything here, before we actually go ahead and download the Ant package, I'm using a Mac OS machine, and this instructions will be Mac specific. There could be some differences if you're using a Windows machine. If you do so, I think there are a few other videos on YouTube which are explaining how to install Ant on Windows. And if those don't help, then feel free to reach out to me and I'm happy to make another video on how to install it on Windows. I'm using a Mac user who has not installed Ant yet. So if I wanted to open my terminal, and I'm in my home directory right now, as you can see, it's Talk Salesforce, and simply try to execute anything related to Ant, it always starts by typing in Ant. You will see that the command is not found, so my system at this stage does not even know what Ant is, so that's why we cannot execute any commands. And we'll get back to this one. This will be important to run some tests if the installation was successful or not. So the first step is to download the Ant package. We can do that by opening their website, again, which I'll be sharing with you in the description and in this presentation. I want to download the latest version, which is 1.10.1. So let's actually do that. It should download very quickly, and there it already is. Let me open that in Finder, and I want to keep it as simple as possible, so that's why I simply renamed this folder to Ant. And now I'm going to copy this folder and paste it into my home directory. Again, in my case, it's Talk Salesforce. Obviously, that will be different for you. So once it finished copying, let's actually look into it very quickly. We don't want to go into the details. We can see that it has a few files in there by default. We will be adding some later. Let's actually look at the libraries very quickly, so we can see that there are a bunch of jar files. Those files, we don't want to pay too much attention to those. To be honest, I don't even know what most of these are doing, but this folder will be important in a few moments, because we need to make sure that Ant knows how to deal with Salesforce, and that's why Salesforce provides a jar library. For now, we're good to go with the next step, so let me get back to the presentation. Since we have downloaded the package already, now we can take care of the next steps, which is telling our system that Ant is now installed. And again, it's not as simple as downloading the file, the package and installing it. We need to tell our system where our Ant library is sitting. So what we need to do is we need to make sure that this .bash_profile file is existing. So how do we do that? Again, we open our terminal, we go back to our home directory. If you're not already in there, you can do that simply by executing following command. And there you go. And now we can search in our home directory by typing in ls-a. And as you can see, I have a .bash sessions file, but I do not have a .bash profile file existing on my machine. So what I need to do now is I need to execute the following command: touch.bash underscore profile, and that will create the file for us. Now, in order to test that if the file has been created successfully, we can re-execute our ls-a command, and there you go. Now we have the bash profile file existing in our system. Now we need to tell this file where we have just installed Ant, and we can do that by simply doing the following. We will open our file. One way of doing it, of course there are others as well, but one way of doing it is open-e and then typing in the name, which is .bash underscore profile. It opens our file. As you can see, it's empty, so our system still does not know how to get to the Ant libraries. So we will simply do that by pasting in following commands. I've prepared something here which will be shared with you as well. Please make sure that you replace this part with your home directory in case you have copied the Ant folder into your home directory as well. If not, of course, this needs to be the path where your Ant package is installed. In my case, it is in the home directory, so that's quite simple here. I replaced it with talk Salesforce. And in order to test that, we will run the ant command again, and now we should see a different message. If you recall, at first it said the command wasn't found, so let's see what will happen now. Hopefully we will see a different message. We don't. Let us close the terminal and open it again. And there you go. So you need to restart your terminal in order to be able to execute the AND commands. Now you can see that we receive a different message. Now it still looks like an error, but I promise this is better than it was before, because now it's not saying, okay, I don't know what AND is, so our system recognizes that AND has been installed, but now it's not finding the build.xml file, which is containing the logic on what steps to execute with AND. We will go into this in a few moments. I've prepared the build.xml file for us already. However, I want to install the Force.com migration tool first, which contains a Salesforce specific logic. Now we can do that by simply opening the following website. It's Salesforce developer website here. So we open this link as well. I definitely recommend that you watch this video as well. I believe it is by it's by Jeff Douglas. It's a great overview, and it contains great instructions on how to install or how to use Ant actually. So we will be downloading the latest version, which is Spring 17 as of now, with the API version 39. So let's download that one. Can take a few moments. It's quite large package. And there you go. Has been downloaded already. So let's actually open that folder and see how it looks like. This is the file we're interested in right now. We will definitely need that one. But before we continue with this file, let's actually see what we have in the sample folder in here. So we can see that there are a few examples already. Now, as you can recall, the build.xml file was the file which was missing. According to the message we got in our terminal, there you go. It doesn't find the build XML file. So again, this is the file which contains the logic to tell our AND system what to execute. So let's actually open that one for now. I'm going to open it with a different tool actually, because I have it open. And again, this is a great file. It contains all the executable commands which can be used as part of the Salesforce deployment. I don't want to go too much into the details here because it could be a bit overwhelming at first. So let's actually look at this one only. As you can see now here, we could execute this one by calling out the name. In this case, it's a test. So this is a sample build XML file, which is great. I can definitely recommend you to use this one. However, for my cases, it was a bit overwhelming, and there were a few commands which I'm not using currently, so that's why I simplified it in my case, and I've created my own build XML file. Feel free to use which one you prefer. I'm going to share mine with you in the YouTube description, but remember, if you download the force.com migration tool, you will get the sample file anyway, so feel free to use that one. In my case, I'm only interested in the AND Salesforce jar file, so I want to copy that file and I want to paste it into the AND library folder. So let us go back to our home directory and let's proceed to the library. This is the folder we looked at the beginning of this video. And now I simply paste my file in here, and now as you can see, we have the Salesforce library inserted. So I'm also going to use my build files, which I have over here. So I'm copying these two and pasting them into here simply. So now AND has the build XML and the build properties file actually. So let's go ahead and open one of them just to see how they look like. Actually, I'll start with the build XML file over here. As you can see, there's much less code than in the build XML file we have seen before. It only contains a few commands that I'm using frequently. The nice thing about this file is you can add and remove your script as you prefer. So it's quite similar to the file we have seen before with a few differences. So in my case, I'm using different directories. If I want to retrieve information, I also need to specify if I want to retrieve from a sandbox or a production instance. So those will be the codes we will be executing, and we will look at those in a later point in time. For now, let's not pay too much attention to what's written in here. You can also open the build properties file. As you can see, we will be adding our Salesforce username and password in here. This is for the source org in my case. And if I'm using, and then I'm also specifying the username and the password for the org we want to deploy to our target org basically. And as you can see, I've also added two instances. So if we are using a production instance, it needs to use the login.salesforce URL. And if we're using a sandbox, it's going to use the test.salesforce URL. And this is why we have two different retrieves commands in our build XML file. So if I want to retrieve from a sandbox, I have to specify that in my AND code saying retrieve from sandbox. If I want to retrieve from production org, I'm going to use this command, and based on this command, it will be knowing what server URL to use. So this is actually it for now. We have successfully installed AND. We have copied over the force.com migration tool, which was one of the most important steps. We have looked at the build XML and build properties file very quickly. In our next video, we will be talking about how to finally use AND now and how to tell AND to retrieve and deploy information. So thanks for watching. I hope you liked it, and stay tuned for the next video.